Well, good morning and happy Monday to those of you that are joining us live here today, and a welcome to those of you that are going to join us on the pre-recorded town hall session at a later time. My name is Michael Gault, and I'm an eminent domain attorney with Bell Carrington Price and Gregg. At Bell Carrington, we offer eminent domain representation for landowners throughout the Southeast. But obviously, if you're here this morning, you know that we're here to talk about the I-26 connector project near Asheville, North Carolina. Just briefly, if you live in or around the Asheville area, then you've likely heard about this project, especially if you think that you're going to be impacted by it. The project itself started back in 2015 when it was initially funded by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. And since then, there have been various reiterations of the plan sheets and drawings and the route that this project may take. And most recently, there have been a number of public meetings. And so maybe you've been involved in those public meetings. You've had a chance to visit with some officials from the NCDOT or to at least give some input into this project. But now we're transitioning from the time of public meetings and public input into the actual beginning of the project itself. And that starts with some right-of-way acquisition. And again, that's probably what brought you here this morning, or to at least view this town hall at a later date. The project itself, according to the North Carolina Department of Transportation, is essentially a new median divided freeway that's accessible only by interchanges. It's a new interstate that will connect I-26 in southwest Asheville up to the US 19, US 23, and US 70 corridor in northwest Asheville. This project is about 7 miles long, and it consists of 5 sections. I won't go into the details of each of those sections, but there'll be major interchange improvements with 26 and 40, with 26 and 240, with 26 and US 19/23. And so these are some major roadways in the Asheville area that are going to be impacted heavily by this project going forward. One thing that I will say about the 5 sections of this project is that the impact to you as a landowner will depend on which property or which section your property is in. So as I mentioned, right-of-way acquisition will happen soon on many of these sections. But there will be others that won't be impacted until some months or maybe even years down the road as the NCDOT works through the various sections of this project and works ultimately toward completion of all 5 over the coming years. For many of you, this is probably the only time, and hopefully will be the only time that you're impacted by an eminent domain project. And so let's talk just for a second about what is eminent domain in general. Eminent domain refers to a legal theory where the government can basically take private property for a public purpose. In a case like this, there's very little argument that the road construction project is a public purpose. And so more than likely, the government will have the legal ability to take that private property for this public road construction project. But it's important for you as a landowner to understand your rights. One of the most important rights that you have in a case like this is a right to what we call just compensation. And basically, that means that even though the government can take your property for this public purpose, they must compensate you fairly for it. They must offer you just compensation. And so how does the process work? Well, for many of you in the coming months, we expect right-of-way acquisition to start happening very soon for many sections of this project. And one of the first things that will happen is that a representative from the NCDOT or an employee of the NCDOT will reach out to you as a landowner to let you know that your property is going to be impacted. And because of that, they're going to make you an offer based on the property that they're taking from you. Now, when they come to you, the folks from the NCDOT are going to have people in their corner. They're going to have appraisers or experts or right-of-way agents that do this type of work often. They're experienced in it. They do it all the time. And so when they come to you, they come with experience. And one thing that I like to tell potential clients or landowners on projects like this is that it's important for you to have some experience in your corner too. It can be overwhelming or sometimes scary for folks to show up at your door or to send you a letter saying, hey, we're taking your property and here's what we're offering you. Unless you have someone with experience in your corner fighting for you, then you may not even be able to put forth an intelligent counter argument or counter offer as to why you believe that the NCDOT's value of your property is low, that their offer is undervaluing what they're taking from you. And it's our job to help represent landowners that are impacted on projects like this to make sure that their interests are protected and that they ultimately receive just compensation in a case like this. Ultimately, if those initial negotiations aren't successful, then we can enter into a process that's known as condemnation. And that's a big legal word that basically means that the government is filing a lawsuit, more or less, that says that they're taking your property and that they're going to proceed with the construction project. And then we have to argue about and fight for that just compensation through the court system. That process can be long and arduous and complicated if you have to get there. And ultimately, it could conclude with one of your other important rights, and that would be the right to a jury trial if you're not able to settle the case at the end of the condemnation process. And we have a right to a trial by members of the community, by 12 jurors in your jurisdiction, to ultimately determine what is just compensation in your particular case. It's very difficult in a forum like this to answer specifics, to look at each property and say, here's what I think may be the typical going rate or the typical value. There is no such thing as a typical value. It's very project or very property specific. And so I encourage you, we're going to put up our contact information in the chat box in a few minutes. I encourage you to reach out to myself or someone with our team at Bell Carrington. We can look at your property, look and give you a free consultation to let you know what we believe may be the issues that you are facing and that you may face when your property is impacted by this project. There in the chat box, you see my email. Feel free to reach out to me directly. We'll also put a phone number up here in just a few minutes, and you'll be able to reach our team directly. We'll have someone contact you back, and we'll be glad to have that consultation with you. Let me mention, if I can, briefly how attorneys' fees work in a case like this. Oftentimes folks, when they think about hiring a lawyer, they're either not able to or not willing to put forth oftentimes what could be expensive attorney's fees. Lawyers sort of have that reputation. But what I can tell you about our eminent domain practice at Bell Carrington is that, number one, that initial consultation is always free. We're always happy to talk to you about your property. Number one, to see if you're impacted. And number two, if you are, to tell you how we think you may be impacted. In some cases, that may be just a very small corner of your property that doesn't affect your home or your business. In other cases, you may be losing your entire property. There may be what we call a total take. And there's a chance of that in a case like this where there's a new roadway being constructed. This is not a road widening project. This is, in fact, a new roadway. And so many landowners, many of you might lose your entire property, but we're able to look at some software that we have internally during that initial consultation to be able to tell you what we show as far as the plan sheets and how you may be impacted. The second thing is that after that initial consultation, if we decide that we're a good fit and that we can help you in a case like this, then our fee structure is based on what's known as a contingency fee structure, meaning that you don't pay unless we recover for you. Our fee is a percentage of the recovery that we're able to get from you from, in this case, the NCDOT for your property and the impacts to your property. Again, this is one of those deals where we need to have that conversation with you on an individual level to be able to talk about the details of that fee structure. We can't just give a blanket statement because each property and each impact is different. And so, we're happy to do that, happy to talk with you. This is what we do all day, every day, is eminent domain for landowners like yourself, again, throughout the Southeast, but particularly our team can help you here in North Carolina with the I-26 connector project. This is a major project. There's a $1.2 billion budget. A large portion of that is set aside for right-of-way acquisition. And so the impacts to landowners are going to be significant. And ultimately, it's important for you to have someone on your side, somebody that knows what they're doing, who knows how the process works, and who has the experts necessary to help achieve the best possible outcome for your particular property in this project. So that basically concludes the information that I have. I'm happy to open it up. If any of you have any questions, feel free to enter those into the chat box. If you're not comfortable entering those questions in this forum, you see my email there. We'll put up a phone number for you to reach us at, feel free to send me an email and I'll get back to you directly, or someone with our team will be happy to speak with you quickly. We're available today. So in the meantime, thank you for joining us, those that are here live. And thank you to those of you that are going to watch later on. We appreciate your time, and we hope that we'll be able to connect with you on an individual level going forward. Seeing no questions, we will end the stream, but I want to thank you guys again. Look forward to speaking with you. Thank you.